White college students attacked for sitting in a multicultural space. Inclusive minority students devise childish reasons to go ahead and exclude them. Say hello to the new campus brown shirts, America. I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is The Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Today's show is sponsored by Mike Lindell and our friends at MyPillow. MyPillow is always offering great deals, and this week they're saving you $70 on a 6-piece towel set. All you have to do is use the code Dr. Duke. That's DRDUKE, and get this wonderful deal. Visit mypillow.com and you can save up to 66% on all their wonderful products. Again, DRDUKE is your code. All right, today we start on the Arizona State University campus, where two students were ambushed and berated simply because they were white men sitting in what was supposedly a multicultural space. I'll take racism for 500, Alex.
So these students were at Arizona State University, and apparently now you can't do your homework at a table in a space if it's claimed to be the multicultural space, because you might have two young ladies come up to you with their cell phones to record you and say that you are a racist and you are causing violence.
Now, these are black versions of Karens, right? So our name for them is Shaniquas, Karen, as you will recall. These are two black Shaniquas behaving like white Karens. Here we go.
You're offensive. Police lives matter?
You have the same sticker.
We're just trying to do school.
What?
You guys have the same sticker of the other.
But this is our space.
We've got a Police Lives Matter sticker and we're getting kicked out. Can't do school. Nobody's kicking out. You just said we have to leave.
No, I said you're making the space uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable.
But you're white. Do you understand what a multicultural space? It means you're not being centered.
White's not a culture?
No, it's not a culture. It's white is not a culture. Say it again to the camera. You think whiteness is a culture?
This is insane.
So anyways, this is the violence that ASU does, and this is the type of people that they protect, okay? This white man thinks he can take up our space, and this is why we need a multicultural space.
Yeah, so as you could hear in the video, these two young ladies clearly are off their rockers. They have some sort of mental handicap going on, but that's what you get when you get to college. And they've been indoctrinated beyond belief to believe that simply for sitting at a table and doing homework, these young men are causing them violence. And these are the young ladies, as you saw. They're real joys.
This is Shaniqua culture. And, you know, the thing that gets me is this idea that white isn't a culture. Everything else is a culture. So we keep hearing how the white man built this super awesome, systemically racist culture, right? Everything they don't like about America is white culture. But whites don't have a culture, we were just told. Katie Petrick.
Yes.
Logic Professor 101. Square that circle for me. If whites don't have a culture, how can America then be systemically racist?
That was just something racist you just said right there, so I will not respond. Meanwhile, what happens if you continue watching this entire video, and I recommend you watch the entire video because it gets better and better. At one point, the young man who was on the left, not the one who was doing the recording back, he said, you know what, I work 60 hours because am I so privileged? Because they accused him of course being privileged because he's a white male. But he said he worked 60 hours so that he could actually go to school. He said, unlike them, who knows what type of assistance they're on in terms of scholarship or financial aid, loans, debt that they're going into. Who knows? Who cares? They have you on recording as being a white supremacist, of course. But the best part of the whole video is at one point, a young man comes up to him and says, hey, let these guys just do their work. And he appears to be Asian. So I think he's allowed in the multicultural space. And he's like, they're just doing their work. Leave them alone. They weren't bothering you. They weren't doing anything.
Now we know why black people are beating up Asians on the streets, aren't they? I guess pretty much the young Asian man, if you watch the rest of the video, who comes to the defense of the two white boys and says, you know, the logical thing, just let them do their damn homework. Maybe now we know why social justice warriors who have influenced African Americans, maybe that's why Asian people are getting beaten up all over the West Coast. Could think of no other reason for it.
But what's so fascinating, about this entire thing, and we see this happening at college campuses everywhere, and it's trickling down, obviously, we know, into the K-12 system too. But the simple fact that it's not like the white boys were doing anything. They didn't approach anyone. They didn't blast anything out there. A sticker right here. All it said was that police lives matter. It didn't say black lives, you don't matter, and only police lives matter. It said nothing of the sort. And the guys were just doing their homework and eating their Chick-fil-A, which maybe that's offensive enough, actually.
Well, I'm surprised they didn't come after me, bro, for the anti-gay Chick-fil-A people.
That too.
The thing that gets me is and this is the fault of universities. Universities are literally pandering to the smallest group of minorities on campus who are the most vocal. So the universities, because they can't grow a pair, they decide that the big-mouthed small few will determine policy for everybody. And what that's done is given these kinds of Shaniquas just a tremendous amount of power that they shouldn't have. They've basically been given veto power over anything on campus that goes on that's not, in their words, black-centered. So racism is racism. I use the word brown shirts, although these are kind of the new campus brown shirts. And the irony, the brown shirts are mostly brown-skinned people. That's not a good color combo.
Before we move on, just a reminder that if you enjoy our content, please consider joining the Patriot Club. Your tax-deductible donation literally keeps this show going. Simply visit patriotclub.us to get signed up. That's patriotclub.us. And as a special thank you, we will ship you our brand new American Patriot, I call it navy blue tumbler, etched with the muscular likeness of that man, the George Washington. Moving on. Teachers, by the way, now are apologizing for
being themselves.
Yes, but in their syllabi, the apologies are being made for, they have the white skin, so now I must, in my syllabi, say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
You knew when everybody bought into this fad of announcing their pronouns. It was just moments away that every syllabus that a kid gets is going to be one long my apology, mea culpa by all white teachers, right? I'm so sorry to be white and teaching you. I apologize for my DNA. I get that my genome is all wrong. I understand that evolution turned me into a monster with no melanin in my skin. Please forgive me, 18-year-old kids, please, for daring to teach you because I'm white. Is that kind of how it goes?
Well, you're the professor. You tell me, is that what you did on day one?
Let's see what the young lady had to say, the not-so-young professor had to say.
Well, we have Dr. Crystal Duncan Lane, who's an instructor of human development and family science at Virginia Tech, and she wrote in her syllabus for the Human Development 1134 class, she decided, I'm going to include a little section about myself. So in that section,
here's what she says.
And of course, this section is called Who I Am. She says, I am a Caucasian, cisgender female, and first-generation college student from Appalachia, who's Scottish, British, and Norwegian heritage. Well then, I am married to a cisgender male, and we are middle class. While I did not ask for many privileges in my life, I have benefited from them and will continue to benefit from them, whether I like it or not. But that's not all. She had to continue.
This is injustice.
This is injustice. I am and will continue to work on a daily basis to be anti-racist and confront the innate racism within myself that is the reality and history of white people. I want to be better, every day. I will transform, every day. This work terrifies me, every day, period.
It's one thing to grovel in the dirt on your yellow belly. It's another thing entirely to invite other white kids to grovel with you.
Well, Dr. Crystal Duncan Lane, I guess the Duncan part is important. She's an instructor, again, of human development and family science. And one student actually said, this course is about disabilities, not political opinion, affiliation, nor judgment in any sort. If you're discussing disabilities, stick to your course. Boom!
Can I rewrite the introduction based on disability?
Oh, geez.
I was born as a perfectly abled person. It's a horror I live through every day. The fact that the Roman Empire didn't have wheelchairs, the fact that they didn't have elevators and escalators in the Middle Ages. I want to apologize as an able-bodied person for the horrors of our history. You've had to walk upstairs. You've had to see without braille. You didn't have dogs trained to walk us around. I'm telling you, we able-bodied people are. I will transform every day. I will. And my able-bodied friends and my able-bodied white Caucasians in this class, I urge you to try to figure out what it's like to live like a disabled person. That's the wrong word. I just said disabled. They're going to fire me. You're all other abled. You're not disabled.
Considering you didn't say 1 colon in there, you are also fired. You must include the colon. Another student actually said that it hurts that someone says I was born with innate racism because of my skin color. It makes me feel like I should hide and worry about everything I say. Fact check, true.
Fact check.
That's what's going to happen. And the fact that we had a couple students within this course, which probably has 35 kids, 40 kids.
I bet more like 25.
Okay, 25 kids. If 2 of them are able to come forth and say, like, this is insanity, I can't wait to see what this entire semester looks like for the rest of the class, because there's got to be at least 1 or 2 more who are like,
well,
this lady
you wonder if
nuts.
there was even a single minority in that class.
No idea.
I mean, all this is the rehearsal of your own. It's become like it's a confessional. It's a confessional where you get your rocks off telling everybody your shortcomings. It's a bizarre, creepy, fundamentally unnecessary, and largely unfair phenomenon. Stop using your syllabi to proclaim how good you are, how decent you are, how hard you're trying. You may not realize it. You may not realize it, but that's an act of showing off. Glorying in your misery, self-inflicted misery, is still glorying in it. It's an absolute episode of vanity and pride.
More information about being white. Get ready to be shamed again.
It's a cancer.
If you have to behave in class, so be good, be kind, be nice, then it must be white supremacy rearing its ugly head again if you behave in class.
Now, we have a Virginia homosexual male teacher who, because he's a homosexual, now apparently is free of whiteness, right? Now he's an authority, right? Because being gay means he covers for the white part of, because this is about the whitest looking dude I ever saw.
So as you see, we're still in Virginia, because in Virginia, you're circling around the rim and going down the hole. We're at the K-12 level. As you saw, it's a high school English teacher.
There
it's
you
always
go.
You fans of English.
Yep.
It's Blacksburg High School in Blacksburg, Virginia. And as you already saw, it's Josh Thompson, who's the teacher we are talking about. Now, originally, Josh had posted back in May what you're kind of about to see here. And he was saying on the video that if you make kids behave in the classroom, then that is white supremacy. And so this video was in May, but yet now it's becoming viral again.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask kids to show up on time and to sit there quietly and to do their homework and to be respectful in the classroom and to raise their hand when they want to talk, all this, of course, is the evil residue of white supremacy.
And he was originally blasting what is everyone knows around the country as PBIS, Positive Behavioral Intervention and Supports Program. And if your school doesn't have one, then you're definitely not in a public school.
That's right.
Because everyone across the whole country, they implemented this program that's supposed to make it so that kids behave and that they don't bully anyone and everyone sings Kumbaya.
Yep.
And if you look statistically at ever since PBIS came into being, it's gotten worse.
Yeah, it's gotten worse. And the problem is that as the revolution goes on, everything is now racist. So here's my point. How can you eliminate, because it's not inclusive, how can you systematically try to exclude bullies from your classroom? Isn't bullying just a choice that some kids make? We saw those 2 black girls in the first story, the 2 Shaniquas, they bullied, right? I mean, I would argue that the white teacher who sent out her syllabus, the story we just did, was in a way bullying her students. And the white ones took them along with her. So bullying is perfectly acceptable if it's done by minorities and self-repenting whites.
What Josh is doing in this video, I only agree with him to the extent that PBIS is bad, but he thinks PBIS is actually just basically the very notion of having it is white supremacy. So that I don't agree with it. That's what the definition of white supremacy is, according to our friend Josh. Let's take a look.
So if PBIS concerns itself with positive behaviors, we have to ask ourselves, okay, well, what are those positive behaviors? And it's things like making sure that you're following directions and making sure that you're sitting quietly and you are in your seat and all these things that come from white culture. The idea of just sitting quiet and being told stuff and taking things in a passive stance is not a thing that's in with many cultures. So if we're positively enforcing these behaviors, we are by extension positively enforcing elements of white culture, which therefore keeps whiteness at the center, which is the definition of white supremacy.
I think Josh is wrong here because as we learned in story number 1, white is not a culture. So stop saying white culture. We can't. You're not allowed. Because it's culture, but it's not a culture, but it's white supremacy, but it's not white supremacy. We don't know anymore. Everything's just confusing. But as Josh says, I mean, if you want kids to sit quietly, that's white supremacy. If you think they should, I don't know, be respectful, that's white supremacy. Does any of that make sense to you, Mom and Dad? And I don't even care what color you claim to be.
Well,
I don't care because all of it is insanity.
Well, it's crazier than that. I mean, you can't have school without it. If kids aren't going to be respectful, if they're not going to sit down and listen, if they're not going to allow the teacher to do his or her job, or in Josh's case, is Josh's job, if you're not going to be able to do that, you can't have school. And this shows you how far down the rabbit hole we are. All of this complete revision of quote unquote white supremacy. By the way, I have seen pictures of kids in other schools. I've seen kids studying in communist countries. I've seen kids studying in Africa, South America. They're all sitting in their chairs, being quiet and behaving. Now, but this, according to the arrogance of our white friend Josh, these are white behaviors. Here's the thing. If we follow idiots like Josh down the rabbit hole, that means school cannot exist. Because obedience, attendance, grades, hard work, homework, showing your work, all that, as we've seen on the Dr. Duke Show for months now, all of that's white supremacy. My favorite was the one that said, the one school district that said, respect for the written word is white supremacy. So even teaching kids how to read is white supremacy. If we listen to these culture-destroying morons on the political left, schools will have gone away. They will no longer exist. And given the public schools, maybe it's a good idea.
What's so nice, though, about what happened here is we do have people who understand the insanity that is happening. And it's not just us who keep putting this into your brains every single day. We do have people responding to this, including one person who said that what Josh did was showing that he's the perfect poster boy for the woke. And another one said, so you're telling me when I was in school and not listening, I was actually fighting racism. Wait until my mom hears this. Because how stupid this really is. And the best response, I think, is by this one person who said, I'm a black teacher. Any notion that behaving and following directions are inherently white traits disgusts me. It highlights the bigotry of low expectations that permeates the education system. Black and brown students are capable and should not be held to separate standards.
Yep. Right.
Point
again,
blank.
Once again, Josh's white paternalism, see, because he happens to sleep with men, his white paternalism is erased for Josh, and suddenly he's allowed to lecture blacks on what isn't appropriate. It is time now for some real education. This is the time at the end of the show where we try to walk away from all of that juvenile, childish, left-wing garbage we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes. And today, we're celebrating the novels of Fyodor Dostoevsky. He's my favorite. Got to admit it up front. 1821, he was born, died in 1881. A remarkable, I think he's the greatest novelist in the history of the world. And I want to take some quotes today for the next 5 days from his famous novel, The Brothers Karamazov. And so it's one of the great I think it is the great murder mystery novel ever written. But every character in The Brothers Karamazov represents a philosophical position, and those philosophical positions are fighting all throughout the novel. So by the end of the novel, not only do you know who the killer is, but you also know what worldviews lead to growth and harmony, and which ones, hint socialism, lead to destructive destruction. Here's our quote from today. It's from the saintly elder, the saintly monk, Father Zosima. He is the great one of the great representatives of Christian love in the story. And here's his definition, part of his definition of love. Quote, "Love in action is a harsh and dreadful thing compared with love in dreams. Love in dreams is greedy for immediate action, rapidly performed and in the sight of all. Men will even give their lives if only the ordeal does not last long but is soon over, with all looking on and applauding as though on stage. But active love is labor and fortitude, and for some people, too, perhaps, a complete science. Active love is a science. I call Christian love active love, because you have to go out and suffer for somebody else. If you're a Christian who's loving God and loving people by locking yourself in your bedroom, hint, you're not a Christian. Christianity requires engagement with the suffering for the suffering. That is active love, and that is difficult. The love of progressive materialism, of left-wing progressives, is passive love, not active love. You check the right vote in the voting booth. You voted all the Democrat ticket. You use your college classroom once or twice a week to lecture white people about how evil they are. That is not engaging with suffering. That is pontificating. There is active love. You roll up your sleeves like Christians do, and you get in there and suffer for people. And then there's passive love that's cheap, it's meaningless, because it doesn't require you to sacrifice. Name one of these professors who gave up their tenure to suffer for minority candidates trying to enter the professorate. And the answer is there aren't any. Passive love is the love of the atheist. It's the love of the left-wing preening progressive. It is not the love of Christ, which is active. And that's one of the brilliant insights from Father Zosima in Dostoevsky's The Brothers Karamazov.
Yay! Now before we go, let's show some love to our Patriot Club members. And today, the shout out is going to Nicole from Phoenix, Arizona. Nicole, thank you for supporting us.
And that's going to do it for us today. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke. She's Katie. Until next time, stay educated, my friends.